We are about to tell you 5 different ways for how to ride faster without trying any harder. Now, you might think you know this stuff, but I'm willing to bet you don't know the things that we are about to discuss.
Cyclists quickly learn drafting. And I know what you're thinking. Guys, don't tell us how to suck eggs.
Well, unless you've been a pro, you're probably drafting like a total noob and wasting precious speed and energy. So, let's get to it.
So first, if you're lucky enough to have some friends, you can draft them. But be aware, not all drafting is equal. You might think that it is, but it's not.
Now, as a professional cyclist, I learned this the hard way. You see, the level of racing is so tough and the competition is so high that the difference of being 30 centimetres behind the wheel to just 3 centimetres behind the wheel, well, that's the difference between getting dropped or not. Such is the energy that you can save over the duration of a race.
And Alex has sat on the back of some pretty big boys, so he knows what he's talking about. But don't take our word for it. Oh no, we can actually demonstrate this using the wind sensor on our Wahoo Element Ace. This has also been investigated by Professor Bert Blocken in the wind tunnel, and according to his research, a 10-centimetre gap, which is typical for pro racing, the trailing cyclist experiences up to 50% reduction in aerodynamic drag. At a 20-centimetre gap, that benefit drops to around 40%. At a 50-centimetre gap, that reduction drops further to around 30%. And at a 1-metre gap, the drafting benefit is only around 20 to 25%.
But pro riders are not only pro in terms of their fitness, they're pro in terms of their ability to try to save energy. Now, an old teammate of mine, Rory Townsend, now the teammate of Tom Pidcock, used to do this thing where in the first 2 hours of bike races, he would try to have the lowest average power possible, which is almost the complete opposite of how many amateur riders approach it, often trying to do a bit of a humble brag about how high their average power is. Now, this really is the best way to look about it, because ultimately the goal is to try to have the highest average speed possible with the lowest average power.
Riding on the hoods is often faster than riding on the drops, especially if you can adopt an aero hoods position with a bent elbow at 90 degrees.
Now, body position in general is often overlooked by most people, but is one of the most crucial things to get right. Now, this applies to everybody, not just those who are racing. And it could be the difference between keeping up with your friends, setting a new PB on your local route, or at the very least, enabling you to ride the same speed for less effort. In fact, an aerodynamic body position will almost always offer more speed than going from a cheap bike to an expensive one. You see, your body accounts for about 80% of your aerodynamic drag, and the bike is much closer to 20%. So, don't expect to throw a truckload of cash at the latest aero bike and assume it's job done.
Tech can help though. For example, the handlebars on my Pinarello are just 36 centimetres centre to centre on the hoods, and I've got my levers turned in. And that's pretty narrow, and this helps me get into a really small aero position to punch through the wind. Now, bars this narrow aren't for everyone, but the point I'm making is that your handlebars might be wider than you need, and by switching to a narrower one, that's an example of a way in which you can make yourself much more aerodynamic. The other thing is that just getting narrower bars doesn't mean that you'll be able to ride in that small aero hoods position. You've got to train it, and the more that you train it, then the longer you'll be able to sustain it. I always try and get into that position on my rides whenever I can. The take-home message is that on a long ride, you can save a huge amount of energy even when drafting, because it all adds up. And that energy saved could be the difference between you not getting dropped, in my case, or having enough left in the tank at the end for a race-winning move like Alex. Next is tyres and pressure. And wait, I know what you're thinking. Why are you repeating yourselves? GCN really has run out of ideas. Well, stop using crap tyres at 90 psi. all the time. The amount of people that I still see on group rides or at cycling events who have amazing, beautiful carbon fibre bikes, really nice wheels, aero helmets, good clothing, but they're still using crap tyres blows my mind. Even if you have a relatively entry-level bike, if you want to go faster or just make your riding easier, the first thing you should always upgrade is your tyres. And at the same time, pay attention to your tyre pressure. A lot of people just seem to just bang in 90 PSI regardless. I've even seen time trialists with amazing setups designed to go as fast as possible, but using crap tyres and not thinking enough about their tyre pressure. A race or an event is going to be hard enough. Why make it any harder and needlessly throw away speed? Websites such as bicyclerolling-resistance.com, one of my favourite websites, offers loads of useful information because they independently test all the commercially available tyres and tell you how they rank in terms of rolling resistance, but also grip and puncture protection and other things as well. This is really useful as it can help you determine the kind of tyre that's optimum for yourself and the kind of riding that you do. But then other websites, such as the Silka tyre pressure calculator, allow you to fine-tune the pressure and work out what is the optimum pressure for the style of riding that you do. And this is great because these resources are free online, and so you've got no excuse. Remember that even a top-end performance tyre, such as this P0 RS, can be slower than a cheap tyre if the pressure is not optimum. But get it right, and it's absolutely rapid. When we no longer see people using crap tyres at the wrong pressure, then we'll stop going on about it.
Number 4, pacing. This involves riding certain sections of your route at a higher average power and certain sections at a lower average power to enable you to recover. Pacing should be seen as a bit of an art form, and even as experienced cyclists, we're still learning and refining our pacing strategies. The key thing to understand is that through optimally pacing your ride, you could shave minutes off of your time without having to try any harder or without having to invest in more expensive equipment. The most efficient pacing strategy is a combination of maths and physiology, and in simple terms, it's a case of putting down more power on the climbs or into a headwind. Now, this is a technique utilised by time trialists and professional cyclists alike, but can also help all of us out. Now, if you want to get super nerdy about this, you can utilise websites and apps such as My Windsock. This is a piece of software which enables you to put your route or course into it, and it will show you the impact of the wind and weather conditions that you're going to be faced with. You can also input other information like your different pacing strategies, and it will give you an idea of where to spend your pennies or shoot your bullets.
For example, if you were to ride a 2-hour hilly circuit and push harder on the climbs and also headwind sections, you could expect to be in the region of 5 minutes quicker compared to flat pacing. It's actually possible to ride quicker but have a lower average power. The reason for this is that at lower speeds, an increase in power will result in a larger increase in speed. And it's for this reason that something like a power meter is an incredibly useful pacing tool.
Number 5. Utilise the tech that's available to you. Now, we've already mentioned websites like My Windsock, but the head units that most of us have fitted to our bikes have far more features than most of us ever actually utilise. Strava live segments is one of those features which is really helpful to enable you to compare your efforts against, say, your PR or the fastest person on the leaderboard.
Wahoo also have their Summit Segments feature. And how this works is when you upload a route into your Wahoo device, it automatically detects climbs along that route. And this is really useful because it sends an alert on the screen when you approach them. And it tells you how long they are and how steep they are, which I find really useful, especially if you're riding in an area that you've not ridden before, or you're doing an event and you're not overly familiar with the climbs, because it allows you to pace them perfectly.
If you have a power meter fitted to your bike, you really want to get the most out of it during your ride rather than just looking at the stats after your ride. Now, I find it really helpful to have current lap average power on display on my head unit. That means when I get to a certain section of my route or a certain climb that I really want to try and target, well, I know I can press the lap button and get the average power from that section rather than just trying to look at the average over the entire ride and trying to have a guess whether I've achieved the kind of power and effort that I really wanted to get to.
It'll also help you with some of the body position changes too. While the controlled environment of a wind tunnel is the gold standard, a power meter combined with monitoring your speed outdoors will show you how much of a good or bad job you're doing utilising the tips and advice that we've just shared.
Granted, these are subtle differences, but they'll soon make a difference to your riding speeds. Don't believe me? Well, Strava will soon tell you if you're riding faster or slower on your usual routes.
And there you have it. 5 simple ways that anyone should be able to go faster without trying harder. Gonna go now. Love you, bye.